Okay, so after the Latos pick, Austin Jackson, Johnny Cueto, Aroldis Chapman, Roy Halladay, Jordan Zimmerman, Chris Medlin, and Ian Desmond were all selected. Konerko's still towards the top of my rankings here. Maybe it's also possible that Alex Rios I have ranked higher than Konerko. No, he's just below Hosmer and Konerko. Anyway, looking at our options here, any corner infielder would go straight into our single utility spot. I don't know if I want to lose that flexibility right away, although it might be worth it if the right name pops up. I don't think Konerko or Hosmer are that name. So I am interested in Rios here. Elvis Andrus, Max Scherzer, and David Freese are also near the top of my rankings overall. With that said, David Freese definitely isn't the pick because I don't want him filling my utility spot. In fact, I'm probably just going to take him off my queue here. So it comes down to kind of hitter, pitcher, and I'm looking at Rios or Scherzer here. And I think I'm going to take Rios, kind of solidify my stolen bases, add a little bit of power, and keep my batting average somewhat respectable, hopefully. I'm going to need to start prioritizing pitching a little bit more going forward after this pick. I am interested in finding a second baseman as well. I should consider Aaron Hill, but I think I can find a better value later, and Rios is a guy I like, so we're going to go with him. See you for the next round. Okay, we're back. After Rios was taken, Pablo Sandoval, Matt Wieters, Giovanni Gallardo, Jonathan Papelbon, Desmond Jennings, Freddie Freeman, Shin-Soo Choo, Michael Young, and Jimmy Rollins were all taken. That's early for Michael Young. Wow. I don't even think that's an issue with the ESPN rankings. I think he's just... that person really wanted Michael Young. Must be a Phillies fan. Anyway, Aaron Hill made it back to us. He is the top of the ESPN rankings, and we do have auto drafters at this point, so I'm probably not going to let him slip away here. The pitchers available here are James Shields, Max Scherzer, who else? Matt Moore at the top of the ESPN rankings. I'm still not looking at closers. Yeah, and Konerko and Hosmer are still buried pretty far down here in the ESPN rankings, so I can wait on them. Yeah, I'm going to take Aaron Hill, fill my second base spot, and if Kipnis had survived to this pick and I had to pick between the two, I would have taken Hill not only because I have him ranked higher, but also because he provides more pop and less speed, and I feel pretty set on stolen bases at this point. I would prefer to get the higher batting average and more home runs that Hill would provide as opposed to the more speed and more runs that Kipnis would provide. Anyway, we're going to grab Aaron Hill here and stay tuned for the next round. After I took Hill, Jose Altuve, Jason Mott, James Shields, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Max Scherzer, Alex Gordon, and Elvis Andrus were all taken. So it's back to me here. I've still got Konerko and Hosmer at the top of my rankings, but I'm thinking about a pitcher here, and I've started loading up my queue with starters because at this point that's where I need to focus my attention. I'd like to see who's kind of upcoming relative to their overall rank in the ESPN rankings over here. Matt Moore is the ESPN ranked top player available. Victor Martinez is also here. I do like VMart for a bounce back this season. But with that said, catcher is way too deep for me to consider jumping on him right now when I could wait at least 2 rounds and get a guy like Salvador Perez or Willen Rosario or Miguel Montero, whoever's basically left over after everybody else has decided to take a catcher. Pitchers available right now. Josh Johnson, that is the highest one I have ranked. Matt Moore is the highest ESPN ranked pitcher. The first basemen are also tempting here. I'm tempted to just go for upside and take Hosmer here, but there's still... Hosmer's kind of up here in the rankings, but Konerko's so far down there that I can wait. I'm going to take Josh Johnson here. He's a guy that I like more than pretty much everybody according to Fantasy Pros. They even asked me to write a little blurb about him about a week ago. I did that. You can check that out at fantasypros.com if you want. They're the people who bring you these awesome rankings widgets that you see pop up at the Fake Baseball and on other sites, I'm sure. Anyway, we'll be back for round 11 in just a minute. After the Josh Johnson pick, Mark Trumbo, Matt Moore, Hunter Pence, Martin Prado, Rafael Soriano, Eric Hosmer, Mariano Rivera, Fernando Rodney, and Ike Davis were all selected. So top of my rankings is still Paul Konerko as far as hitters go. Other hitters here in the the ESPN ranks, that I'm looking at are Carlos Gomez. He's a guy who is in line for an everyday job this year, and after hitting 20 homers or almost 20 homers and almost stealing 40 bases in less than 140 games last year, I think that definitely caught fantasy owners' attention, mine included. But I've only got 2 outfield spots left to fill. I have many pitching spots yet to fill. I need to also get a middle infielder, a catcher, and a utility. I think I'm going to hold off on Konerko again because there are some other first basemen who are still available who would kind of fill the same role. Guys like Anthony Rizzo, Nick Swisher's kind of buried in the rankings. So I'm looking at a starter here. The highest one I've rated is Jake Peavy, although I'm not a huge Jake Peavy fan. These next whole crop of pitchers from Peavy, Morrow, Heron, Anibal Sanchez, Lincecum, Kennedy, Mike Minor, I don't find a whole lot of separation between them, so I'm tempted to take another hitter here, and I think that hitter is going to be Carlos Gomez. It'll really lock up stolen bases for me, and he still provides enough pop to not be a liability in the outfield. This will give me a little bit of flexibility in the sense where I really don't need to worry about my 5th outfielder until close to the end of the draft, and there are a lot of guys who are kind of buried in the rankings who can fill that role, the Brandon Mosses, so on and so forth. So I'm going to take Gomez here and expect one of these pitchers I like to come back to me next round. I should also start looking at closers. The top ones ranked here are J.J. Putz, Joe Nathan, Joel Hanrahan, and I think I saw John Axford down here. We could look at my rankings real quick to kind of see where I come down on those guys. I've got Nathan ranked ahead of all those other names. Then Axford. I think Mott is already gone from what I understand. I'm pretty sure I said his name earlier. But he's a guy I like this year too. So yeah, maybe next round take another starter. Maybe jump on Joe Nathan or John Axford if one of them is available. But it's almost certainly going to be a pitcher next round, and we'll be back for that in just a moment. Since that Gomez pick, Victor Martinez, J.J. Putz, Anthony Rizzo, Carlos Beltran, David Freese, Curtis Granderson, and Tim Lincecum were selected. So Jake Peavy is still my highest-ranked pitcher. There goes Doug Fister. Paul Konerko is still my highest-ranked hitter. I am going to see where Konerko is in the rankings here. He's down here at 139 overall in the ESPN ranks. And I can't sleep on him for too long if he's the guy I want to fill my utility. With that said, I'm going to bank on it not being a problem this round, and I'm going to take a pitcher. And I've got PV ranked highest. I say let's go for it. Here we go. This is the first time I've drafted Jake Peavy in many years. We'll be right back with round 13. Okay, that sound means that it's our turn to pick again. After Peavy went, Melky Cabrera, Brandon Morrow, Chris Johnson, the third baseman, Ian Kennedy, Hiroki Kuroda, Joe Nathan, Neil Walker, Mike Napoli, Dan Heron, and Jim Johnson were all selected. Paul Konerko's sitting at the top of my list here still, and I think now's the time to pounce. He's kind of shown up here in the overall list of players on ESPN, and I'm guessing he'll be one of the top first basemen available, just behind an injured Mark Teixeira, so he will probably be gone very soon if I don't take him now. The other options available to me here are pitchers. Anibal Sanchez, Mike Minor, Jeff Samardzija, Matt Harvey, Brandon McCarthy, Brett Anderson, and then the crop of closers, John Axford. Who else is here closer-wise? I don't know. Someone I'm not going to take. That's who. So Paul Konerko is going to join the team here. That leaves me with just an outfield, a middle infield, and catcher to fill for the roster, and then all pitchers. So, yeah, we're going to snag Konerko and get back on the pitching train next round unless there happens to be a middle infielder that I absolutely love, and I'm not convinced that's going to be the case. Let's just for grins take a quick look at who's available. By the ESPN ranks, we've got Eric Ibar, Howie Kendrick, Danny Espinoza, Alcides Escobar, Ricky Weeks, J.J. Hardy, Dan Uggala, Marco Scutero, Derek Jeter kind of at the top of the rankings. Guys I like a little further down are Andrelton Simmons, Zach Cozart, Josh Rutledge is a decent value play. I kind of like Jed Lowry a little bit, and Jed Giorco, or Jorko, I don't know how to pronounce his name actually. both have upside for sure. It sounds like Gyorko is going to be the opening day starter for San Diego. You can't like that ballpark, but an everyday opportunity is something that is not to be frowned upon in the fantasy baseball community. So yeah, I'm probably going to wait on middle infield. Let's take a quick look at the available catchers. Miguel Montero, Willen Rosario, Salvador Perez are all still available, as I predicted however many rounds ago. Of this crop, I like Rosario the most. And let's double check this with my rankings. Let's see. I've got Rosario, Montero, Perez in that order, but really any one of the three is fine. And at outfield, the best players available by ESPN's rankings are Angel Pagan, Shane Victorino, Torrey Hunter, Alejandro De Aza, Brett Gardner, Nelson Cruz, Ben Revere, Andre Ethier, and Jason Kubel. Considering the makeup of my team so far, I'm not really interested in a speed guy like Victorino or De Aza or Brett Gardner. What I really want is somebody who's going to hit some home runs and drive in some runs, pad my RBI totals. Nelson Cruz kind of fits that bill, but he has a lot of trouble staying healthy, and I've already got a pretty risky squad coming together. I would rather possibly wait on a guy like maybe Josh Reddick or Nick Swisher. They're a lot further down the rankings and provide similar stats as far as home runs and RBIs go. The batting average risk with those two is definitely a thing that I need to be aware of if I select them. In general, my batting average is okay so far. Gomez is kind of a batting average drain, and Longoria is nothing to write home about, or Goldschmidt as far as their batting average goes. Anyway, I'm about to pick again here. After Konerko went Ortiz, Carl Crawford, Jonathan Neese, Joel Hanrahan, Sergio Romo, Derek Jeter, John Axford, and Nelson Cruz were all selected. So there goes that plan. I'm just going to take a starter here, and Anibal Sanchez is the guy I have ranked highest. The only other thing I could consider at this point, I believe, is a closer. We'd be looking at Greg Holland or Houston Street or Rafael Betancourt. I think I can wait another round before getting into the saves market. So I'm going to take Anibal Sanchez here, and we'll catch you for the next round. All right, it's back to us here. Since my last pick, Shane Victorino, Angel Pagan, Ricky Weeks, Lance Lynn, Howard Kendrick, Andrelton Simmons, Andre Ethier, John Lester, Torrey Hunter, and Addison Reed were all selected. I'm glad I didn't miss anybody there. The top of my pitching rankings here are Mike Minor, Jeff Samardzija, Matt Harvey, Brandon McCarthy. I could also think about going closer here. Greg Holland is available. Houston Street is available. Rafael Betancourt is available. And there's Ryan Madsen, although it sounds like he's not going to start the year as the closer for the Angels. It'll be Ernesto Freri. Between Minor and these other starters, I'm not too concerned about which one I get, whereas I care a little bit more about the difference in closers, and Betancourt is my highest ranked guy among that group, ahead of Houston Street. So I'm going to take Betancourt here and start locking up some saves. And I've got a pretty decent core of 4 starters here I can kind of fill in, which is kind of value starters as we keep going. And with that said, I'd rather just kind of load up on saves here so that I can use my bench spots on starters to kind of stream in for my core group of guys, while maybe 4 or even 5 of my pitching spots can be dedicated to closers on a day-to-day basis, because this is a daily league. If it were a weekly roster change league, that strategy kind of goes out the window, because you don't want to start necessarily 5 closers every week. You need to pile up strikeouts and wins with more starters than that. But in a daily league like this, I like loading up on closers, especially like the mid-level to low-end closers, just for like save volume above all else. We'll just keep talking here for now that we're in round 16. After I took Betancourt, Tim Hudson, Greg Holland, Danny Espinosa, Jared Parker, and Jonathan Broxton were selected. It's a little early for Broxton, in my opinion, mostly based upon the fact that it's possible that Aroldis Chapman could be the closer for the Reds to start the year. And I don't know if you want to bank on that panning out for you when there are other like closers who clearly have the job lockdown available. Guys like Houston Street, guys like Grant Balfour, to be honest. Anyway, Miguel Montero, Alejandro Diazo were just selected. I put the top 3 catchers in my rankings up here, and with Montero gone, that leaves Rosario and Perez as the only 2 catchers I'm really interested in owning. Between me and my next pick, there is only 1 player who does not have a catcher. So it's possible he could take the other one, and then if that happens, I'll probably just jump on one of these catchers with the next pick. With that said, I'm looking at another pitcher here as I pick in the 16th round. Brent Anderson and Jeff Samardzija are atop the ESPN pitcher rankings. I've got Mike Minor rated higher than both of them, but it's possible I could play the waiting game here and try and get him later. I'm also interested in taking another closer here. Who am I looking at? Balfour or maybe Jason Greeley. On the left here, we can see my closer ranks. Where's Tom Williamson? Is he available? Oh, yeah. That is a guy I might take right here. Yep, I'm going to jump on Wilhelmsen here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Next round, we'll see if only one of these catchers is available, I'll probably take him. If they're both still available, I'll probably pass again. And we'll see what happens then. Join me in a moment after I pause.